Episode 4 has arrived, and there is a lot, and I mean a lot, cut from this episode, so you're gonna want to stick around, especially for the insane amount of star lore in this episode. Now, the start of this episode is a big deal, okay? If you're an anime only, you don't know why, but this is the first ever adapted Shadow Garden scene. Seriously. There were supposed to be many up until this point, and I've segmented a section after the cut content portion of this video where we can talk about all of the missing Shadow Garden sequences until now. We get to see Regulus again, which is awesome, but even crazier is that we get to see Betelgeuse in his insane form for the first time in a while. This serves as explicit anime confirmation that Subaru has absorbed the witch factor of greed as well, something that had been cut a few times up until this point but has finally made it in. They now live in this shadow dimension where they just sit there and talk shit for the rest of their existence. Subaru heard them bicker and bicker and bicker, but in the shadow space, he knew that they would never benefit from development, and he simply tuned them out. Quite literally, as we get this awesome visual of a TV turning off, and then a figure appears before Subaru, her visage still clouded by darkness, and we hear Satella's signature, "I love you," before he wakes up. In the novels, and in every Shadow Garden scene, it usually described that in this world, Subaru feels intense. He feels an intense love for the person standing before him, but his body never took shape enough to ever act on those feelings. His mouth never materialized to say that he loves her. The narration for the end of the section goes as follows. Someday, he will be able to touch those unreliable fingertips that reached out to him, to wrap his hands around her slender waist and speak his love to her. I have to prepare lips to be able to answer those words the next time. I'll prepare a body that lets us touch each other, feel each other. There's also some narration before Subaru wakes up that I really enjoy, and I think you guys would too. It describes Subaru's inability to fall asleep at night, but his ease of waking up. And he thinks about how Emilia is the opposite, falling asleep like a baby immediately but taking an hour to get out of bed. For Subaru, it's like he falls into the darkness, thinking about his regrets, thinking about things like, if I had only, and if I was just, and the like. As more regret piled up, Subaru's sleep became worse and worse, so the events in the sand labyrinth would surely disrupt his sleep in the future. Subaru wakes up in the carriage, and he was apparently out for like a while. Waking up, he lays in Amelia's lap hand in hand when Beatrice comes in, and he can't help but rush to her to hug her. I don't think I talk about it enough, but I fucking love the Subaru and Betty relationship. It rules. Exiting the carriage, Subaru immediately comes face to face with none other than Shaula. You can understand it by his face, but explicitly in the novels, because of her demeanor and the way she's dressed, his first thought is that she was creepy. Then the craziest 180 of the century, as Shaula becomes an entirely different person. She calls him Master and pins him and Bayako to the ground. She talks about being so lonely, thinking that she would spend the rest of her life in solitude, sniping those who came to the tower on her master's orders. She proudly declares herself the Pleiades Watchtower Star Guardian and the master's pupil, Shaula. Now, there is some star lore in this episode, like a lot, so if you want some more, you can go through my previous episode videos where I talk about some during Season 3. The party tells Subaru that she was completely quiet when they tried to speak to her, but now that Subaru's here, she's totally different. And attempting to leverage his role as her master, he tells her to answer their questions. Shaula informs them that her master had told him to not say unnecessary things, and to stab anyone she came across.
My life is a lie! Somebody's gotta get stabbed!
Upon being asked if she is the sage Shaula, she says it's complicated. She is Shaula, but not any sort of sage. Anna takes out some of the kingdom coins she carries around as a dirty capitalist pig, and has Subaru take a look at them. The sacred gold coin depicts the divine dragon Volcanica, even though it doesn't look very gold. The gold coin depicts Reed the first sword saint, and the silver coin depicts the sage. The novels describes it as resembling a young, handsome man with long hair. It certainly does not look like a half-naked woman in a cloak. Shaula says it looks just like Subaru, to which nobody agrees, and Shaula says that she isn't good with faces, but it's fine, because he smells just like Master. Nobody but Master would ever give off such a nose-scorching, pitch-black, nasty stench and be totally fine. There are a couple things to note in this interaction. First of all, it seems that Subaru's miasma is coming back and strong. It had always been something that we were aware of. Rem would always talk about him smelling like complete ass, and it came in clutch multiple times when manipulating witch beasts. This also seems to imply that Shaula's actual master may have carried this scent as well. Oh, I mean, assuming that that's what it's talking about. It's definitely something to think about. If you guys have any theories, let me know in the comments below. The second thing to note is Shaula's use of English throughout this episode. She says things like, "no problem," or "scorpion tail" later in the episode, so considering her life of solitude in this tower, it's more than likely that she had learned the use of these words from her master, likely insinuating that he is probably, just like Subaru, Aldebaran and Hoshin. Another person that comes from Earth and 400 years ago was disseminating English phrases to people, just like Subaru is doing now. Then we find out who Shaula's master is. The great sage, Flugel. That name will probably ring a bell for quite a few of you, as it does to Subaru, who thinks back to the tree from Season 1. The tree, notably, also had Flugel was here carved into it in Japanese. Not ReZero script, not English, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. The episode continues on with the party going upstairs. I'm sure that made some of you very excited, and as we go up, we learn about the insane height of this tower and its many floors. This is also something that makes Subaru feel that this is all finally real. They finally made it to the Pleiades Watchtower. However, Shaula butts in to correct him. The Pleiades Watchtower was just a temporary name. The proper name is the Great Pleiades Library. Okay, this is going to be a tangent because this is a very, very recent discovery. Yes, even for novel readers. Most of them probably don't even know what I'm about to talk about. Translator and good friend of mine, Garkar, recently uncovered something very, very interesting about this differentiation. When Shaula refers to the true name of the library in Japanese, it is spelled and pronounced ever so slightly differently. I will throw it up on the screen as long as Future Acid doesn't fucking forget. The difference is really minor. The primary difference is that the version used by Shaula is more commonly associated with the Greek myth of the Pleiades Seven Sisters, while the version used by the series up until this point is used to refer to the star cluster. Anime onlys, you might be thinking, I don't really know why this fucking matters, but it's certainly something to chew on for novel readers. Just thought I would use this to drop new lore for people. Thank you so much for the information, Garkar. Next, Subaru and Ram enter the green room. The door is a bunch of vines that open up, causing Subaru to freak out a little, and Ram warns him to not disrupt the master of the room, a spirit that basically oversees what happens inside. The room is like entering a new area entirely, a completely different look and feel. It's really cool. We see Ram and Patricia lay down, and Patricia has been completely beat up from the cave incident. The spirit in this room has the power to speed up the healing process, which makes Subaru wonder if it's healing Rem. However, we all kind of know that that's not going to work. There is no healing that which Rem is afflicted with, and that reminds Subaru of their mission. He is going to do what they came here to do, and he's going to save Rem, heading out and leaving Ram to watch over her sister. We hear Shaula talking about her lair and her ever-powerful Hell Snipe. Just so you guys know, this is where the biggest cuts of the episode really are, so if you want to know them, you really should stick around to the end of the video. And then Beatrice pulls Subaru down to whisper about how if Shaula finds out that he isn't Flugel, there's no telling what she will do, and he agrees, and concludes that it would be dangerous to correct her. When she comes rushing over to hear what they're talking about, he gives her a single command, with an exceptionally serious expression to make sure it is not misunderstood. Do not cause any harm to him or his comrades. In narration, Subaru feels troubled. He has to live up to the Flugel in Shaula's mind, somebody he fundamentally wasn't. He had no clue how he should behave to pass as someone he knew nothing about. As of that moment, he couldn't think of anything other than to perfectly perform his usual role as Natsuki Subaru. The pressure of expectation is a message that permeates ReZero. The expectation of Subaru being the son of Kenichi, the expectation someone like Reinhardt faces in his position and in his lineage, the unspoken difficulty of the expectations that Julius may have for other people that he had relationships with, and now Shaula is placing a heavy burden on Subaru, to be someone he truly isn't. And this is something very, very integral, and I want viewers at home to keep this in mind throughout Season 4. When thinking about what this Flugel person might have thought of this world, Shaula makes a loving expression at Subaru, welcoming back her master from the bottom of her heart, having long awaited the sage Flugel's return, causing him to feel torn up about misleading her. They head up the stairs again as Shaula informs them of the 3 examination floors, a test one must take to enter the Great Library. Julius informs Subaru that they took some of the tests while he was asleep, but it was quite confusing, and reaching the room, it felt like a space where nothing felt right. Pure white. Feeling endless, feeling like it stretched out in all directions, and it made him feel disoriented. And right in front of him, a stone slab floated, or as Subaru calls it, a monolith. Touching it, light shoots out and begins to multiply, scattering to various points before hanging in the air. And then, a voice echoes directly in their heads. Great hero destroyed by Shaula, touch upon his grandest splendor. To test out failure, Julius has Subaru touch one of them and the room resets. They have seemingly unlimited tries, but also, you can't just randomly touch them and get the answer right, much to Amelia's embarrassment. Seemingly, an answer arrived at without thought is not sufficient. 0 credit for answers that don't show your work. So Subaru asks Shaula, you remember any heroes you destroyed? She triumphantly claims that she is a killing pro, and she can't remember past the first 100. He asks if she killed Reed, and hearing that name, she freaks the fuck out. Was he really that scary, he wonders? And Julia says that couldn't be possible. He's an absolute history dork and talks a shit ton about how that isn't possible. He's such a dork, dude. He tries to ignore that, but Subaru refuses to let him. It's a good moment. Racking his brain, Subaru thinks that they lucked out by getting here, but most would have to defeat Shaula to enter the tower. Therefore, her memory can't be part of the solution, and there's no way you could do all this to reach an unbeatable trial. Subaru thinks of the origin of the name Shaula. He thinks of the constellation which Shaula comes from, her insistence on calling it a scorpion tail, and the star in her braid. Calling out to Bayako, he's figured it out. Casting Marok, he gets a look from above and he figures out the answer. The rest of the party never would have been able to solve it. Not because they sucked or missed anything. There are hardly any people who have a chance. The hero destroyed by Shaula is Orion. Shaula in the constellation Scorpius is known as the Scorpion Stinger, and according to legend, Orion was getting full of himself, so the god sent a scorpion to deal with him. Once it jabbed him, he died and transformed into stars in the sky, and as a reward, the Scorpion joined him in the sky. Grandest splendor is a bit of a trick question. Betelgeuse is a variable star, meaning its apparent brightness can change a lot, but the most consistent one would be Rigel, the foot of Orion, and so, that's what he chose, causing the room to be blown away, and finally, they were standing in a space hewn from stone, surrounded by massive walls of books. And so, episode 4 ends. I think it's a good episode. It's obviously no episode 3, but not all episodes are created equal. Some episodes are just more chill and more based on lore and relationships, and this is one of them. The Shadow Garden scene is good, though it honestly does feel like it's missing the feel of a Shadow Garden scene in the novels, but I also don't know how you would communicate that, so it's a bit tough. Seeing Pete and Regulus again is awesome, and the character acting or framing is fire, especially because I thought that they would just be shadows or silhouettes, but full models is badass. And the representation of Subaru cutting them off, like out of his mind, being the TV turning off, is a fantastic way to adapt narration to visuals. The character art of this episode is, like, consistently fantastic, and I know I usually praise it, but I feel like this one was a standout, and there were multiple times where I went, damn dude, Subaru looks good. I'm not someone who usually notices music in an episode. I'm sure some of you guys have realized that by now because I basically never comment on OSTs. When people ask me my thoughts on an episode's OST, I usually just say, I don't know, man. But the music in this episode was very apparent, and it was very good. The Shaula character acting was exceptional. They clearly had a ton of fun making her extremely expressive. Jumping for joy, hiding behind the monoliths, being a general menace. She's fun to watch even though I'm not really a Shaula fan. Season 4 also continues the trend of not immediately going from A to B to C to D like I constantly complained about in Season 3. Things are much better paced. They are much more spaced out and such. Even though this episode cut a shit ton, like seriously a lot, there was never any point where I felt like we were going fucking 200 miles an hour down the highway. They cut stuff, but focus on what they have, and it's good. The presentation of the examination room is awesome, even though it's an all-white, seemingly infinite space. It's given a cool distinction because of the unique coloring of the line art. It feels properly mysterious and cool. This is followed by the awesome post-credit sequence of Subaru explaining the star stuff. It's presented in an awesome way. The stars look pretty. The fact that it's not just Orion but a shit ton of constellations is sick, including Taurus right there in the Pleiades. The shot of them fading in front of Subaru is cool, and when we cut to just Orion and we have Betelgeuse and Rigel sticking out with their bright colors, it looks fantastic. I'm not entirely sure why this was a post-credit scene, but it is what it is. Good episode. I'd give it maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. There was a lot cut from this episode, and I'm not just saying that so you stick around, it's really a lot. I wouldn't say any one of them is a major cut, it's more so a death by 1,000 cuts, like Maharaga. The first cut is that the mood when Subaru first wakes up is quite a bit different. He still hugs Betty and is grateful to hear that everyone's okay, but he wants her to make sure. And she's like, what, do you doubt what I'm saying? And he's like, no, I don't doubt you, but last time I celebrated everyone being okay, we found out that Julius was gluttonied, so he's pretty on edge when he first wakes up. Feeling afraid of what lay outside, Subaru jumps out of the carriage, which is when he comes face to face with Shaula. Rather than saying that she found him again, she actually approaches him in the novels, not responding to any question that he asks her, before muttering simply the word 3. I think it's safe to say that this is referencing the amount of witch factors that are in him. Whatever returned by death is, invisible providence or sloth, and now greed. We hear a bit more about the other group while they were all separated. Meili says that Emilia was panicked, Beatrice was crying her eyes out, and even Meili got worked up. Betty unconvincingly tries to deny that she cried her eyes out, and Subaru thanks Ram for standing in front of him back then. But she kinda just brushes him off, and Emilia says that she's embarrassed because Subaru was hugging her when she woke up. This is such a minor cut. There was a fourth coin in the novels, the copper coin that shows Lagunica Castle. That's it. Also in the novels, Emilia is the one explaining the coins to him like he's an idiot, and Subaru says it's like RPG exposition. When Shaula is saying Subaru and Flugel look alike, she says it's because they both have hair, 2 eyes and ears, a mouth and a nose. And Subaru says that she's just describing Mr. Potato Head. Another minor cut, when Shaula hears that Reed is dead and looks a bit dejected, Ram also informs her that Volcanica is still alive considering he's a dragon, to which Shaula says, it would have been better if Volcanica died instead of Reed, which is crazy. The next cut is that later, the group comes to the conclusion that Flugel pinned all the things he did on Shaula. And she says that, well, Flugel didn't like standing out too much, so it sounds like something that he would do. And Julius once again becomes a history dork about the sage because of it. There's a small detail cut about the green room, specifically that there is a limit on the amount of people that are allowed inside of it that is decided by the spirit, which is why it closed when Subaru and Ram entered. Before Subaru leaves, he asks Ram if she wanted to stay by Ram's side. Why did she come downstairs when he woke up? And she demands that he leaves. It's cute. There are a few instances cut of Subaru and Emilia talking about how the examinations here remind them of the witches' trials from Arc 4. Naturally, Subaru directs his suspicion towards Aridna, who is like, bro, I don't know shit, what do you want me to do? Very small cut, but when Subaru was acting awkward about lying to Shaula, Emilia comes to reassure him and says that Shaula's a good person, and all Subaru can really do is give her the side eye. And when in the examination room, Betty is basically calling Shaula dumb and asking if all her nutrients went to her chest and butt, and Shaula says that her mom picked out this look for her. Something small to work with for theory crafters, perhaps? When Subaru first leaves the green room, Shaula explains more about the tower, and we actually get names for the floors. The entrance is on the 5th floor, Selino. Downstairs is the 6th floor, Asterope. And this is the 4th floor, Alcyone. Alcyone is like her lair. She says that she's grateful that House Snipe didn't kill Subaru, and that the dimensional gate broke. His survival is how she knew that he was her master. Melee is like, he could have died, you know, and Shaula laughs. Master seems like the guy who can't die. And this next one is probably the biggest cut of the episode, but later, Subaru calls out to Shaula and holds up 6 fingers. Maya, Electra, Alcyone, Selino, Asterope. From top to bottom, those are the floors of the Watchtower. So, where is Merope? The last member of the Pleiades 7 Sisters, and when Subaru asks this, Shaula is caught off guard, answering that it's like the 0th floor, a place that was made after Flugel had disappeared, so he shouldn't know where it is. When Subaru tries to confirm its existence, Shaula stops him, telling him it's no good. To Subaru's ears, a trace of danger had seeped into her voice. The requirements haven't been fulfilled yet, she says, so the 0th floor is no good. For those somehow still unaware, Pleiades in Japanese is Subaru, and of course, Pleiades refers to both the Pleiades star cluster visible in the night sky and the sisters of Greek mythology. Maya is the oldest of them and was considered mother or nurse due to her name. Electra, or Amber, is the star that was hardest to identify in the cluster, and according to mythology, it was because she turned away to look away from the destruction of Troy, as Electra was connected to the legend of Palladium, the sacred statue, which became the protector of Troy. Taiget was the mistress of the animals, Alcyone had kids with Poseidon, and also a mortal who later became a marine god. Selino also had children with Poseidon. Awkward. Asterope didn't do much that I'm aware of, and Merope, the secret floor of the Watchtower, can literally translate to with her face turned. It's said that at some point, Orion the Hunter had fallen in love with the 7 Pleiades, and to protect them, Zeus turned them into stars. Like what was discussed earlier in the episode, Orion got a bit silly, and this was the reason why. So, Artemis had Apollo send the Scorpion to kill him, which it did. And so Zeus turned Orion into a constellation so that it could always pursue the Pleiades in the sky. I'm sure there's more information out there. This is just a general summary that I'm copying straight from Wikipedia, but I think it's neat. That's about all the cuts. There are a few more minor ones, but nothing substantial. Let's talk about the Shadow Garden scenes. So, throughout the entirety of ReZero, we have had these Shadow Garden scenes. Usually when Subaru dies, but sometimes when he just passes out. In total, 5 of them have been cut from the anime. The first instance is after he jumps off the cliff in Arc 2. He entered into nothingness. He did not have eyes, hands, feet, or any parts of his body. All that remained was his incorporeal floating mind. A silhouette abruptly emerged in front of his mind, and with the emergence of the human shape, his mind gained its first strong desire. He felt a breach in the cold as the shadow gently moved, as if to convey something to his mind. With a faint whisper, she muttered, "I cannot meet you. Not yet." The second time would be at the end of Arc 2, after defeating the Witch Beasts, and once again there was nothing, like being cast into the sea at night. In front, directly ahead of Subaru's mind, someone stood once again. He vaguely thought it was the shape of a woman. The shadow wavered and slowly reached out a hand. When her fingers gently grazed his mind, Subaru wanted to weep. The wave of strange emotion washing over him suggested that he had always been waiting for her to do so. He wanted the shadow to swallow him whole, but it had stopped. Something had stopped it. There was another shadow, its white fingers embracing him from behind. The instant Subaru felt that heat, the shadow before him rapidly faded away. Finally, the shadow serenely stretched her fingers towards Subaru, who was nearly in tears, and barely muttered, "Love you." The third scene comes after the iconic Episode 15 death, being frozen and decapitated by Puck. He thought, "What is this place? What am I doing here?" And this seems to be the first time he forms conscious thought in the Shadow Garden. He stood, his legs were on the ground, but what he thought was beneath his feet blended with the darkness covering his vision, and so his footing was uncertain. A crack formed in space, and a silhouette emerged from it. The instant he recognized it, emotions he cannot put into words nearly took over his mind. He wanted to run to the figure, embrace her slender body, put his lips to her nape, and yet, he lacked the legs with which to rush to her, the arms with which to embrace her, the lips with which to kiss her and prove that he existed. Seemingly understanding how he felt, the figure reached out with her arms. Those two hands gently came close enough to firmly embrace him. As the fingertips touched him, great happiness flooded into him, as if joy was gushing from every cell in her body, filling every nook and cranny of his consciousness. And then she said, "I love you," and Subaru woke up. Later in the same arc, after Subaru is mercy killed by Julius, he once again enters the world of nothing but darkness. In his mind he rambled. Where is this? Who am I? What happened to make it like this? And in that pitch black darkness, a voice penetrated deep into his heart. "I love you." It hung in his unhearing ear. It reached what should have been his still unbeaten heart. It found his soul, which was still unsure of its own existence. The voice was so terribly fleeting. The whispers wrenched his heart, filling it with such longing that it threatened to shatter. He thinks to himself, "If I had fingers, I would touch you. If I had a mouth, I would call your name. If I had arms, I would embrace you. If I had feet, I would run to your side. If I had a body, you would never be alone again." But none of those wishes could be granted. The warmth he received magnified his yearning, his emotions many times over, until finally they became sins. Sloth for being unable to wipe away her tears of sorrow. Lust for wanting to reunite and become one with each other. Gluttony for wanting to consume and possess everything. Greed for seeking love, demanding it and taking it all. Wrath at the unreasonableness and absurdity disallowing it. Pride despising everyone and everything except for her. Envy simply at the world that surrounded the lovely girl. With this realization, the world shrouded in black was filled with an overwhelming sensation of love. That instant, the supposedly empty space warped, then shattered as irreversible time began to flow backward. It was simple. He understood that he was starting over. Where he had ended in darkness, light was born, and if he walked toward it, the world would greet him once more. "I love you," it rings out again. He turned his back on the voice and walked forward. He wanted to turn toward it, but he held fast. However, surely, one day he would take her hand. The lovely voice called out until the very end, when Natsuki Subaru began anew. The fifth and final one takes place when Subaru is knocked unconscious by the magic stones at the end of Arc 3. He hovered in the vast empty space as nothing but consciousness, but in that blank hollow world of nothingness, there was a charming someone he couldn't meet anywhere else. The shadow formed, and the captivating someone appeared, approaching Subaru as she whispered her love. He could not see the expression on her face, however, that someone was likely spinning words of love with a face drenched with anguish. He wanted to be touched. He wanted to be longed for. Reflexively, Subaru's heart was drawn in. He wanted to respond to her love, to repay her for it. He would never be able to repay her love granted to him with anything less than love of his own, and yet, he heard it. A lovely voice other than someone was calling his name. His thoughts alone understood. He was being called back to the world of the light. The voices overlapped. He wanted to respond to the shadow's love. He absolutely had to respond to the love of the light. The voice of that someone held grief at the state of Subaru's heart, for she was being left behind. Two arms woven from shadows stretched out, but they did not reach his incomplete body. As Subaru grew distant, he heard the voice tremble, sadly calling out as it sought him over and over. The whispers of love repeated over and over, whereas the call of his name contained a simple please. Remember who you are. Remember what you have to do. Remember the words you must exchange in the world where you belong. He couldn't stay there, so next time, I'll probably come to meet you. With non-existent lips, surely unable to convey his feelings, he spoke his farewell to the someone fading in the distance. They were words of departure, an oath that they would meet again. "I'll be waiting," that someone echoed, as Subaru was torn from that ephemeral dream. And that ends the Shadow Garden scenes that were removed from the anime. It's awesome to see it finally be added to an episode. Do you have any theories or thoughts on these Shadow Garden scenes? If so, please comment down below. But that'll be the end of this video, and I'll see you all for episode 5 next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. You can also check the description down below to become a member, which gives you benefits like early videos, membership badges, and cool custom emotes. You can join the Discord where we talk about ReZero, Kagurabachi, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all kind of stuff. Additionally, you can go to the channel store and pick up some awesome stickers made by our channel artist, so you can carry the power of Graphia with you on your water bottle. That's about it though. Thank you for watching. See ya.